My name is Andrew Stummy. I am a field representative, political coordinator, and art director for the Art Directors Guild, IATSC Local 800. I take this time to remind you to silence all electronic devices. No, please, if you want loud as you can't have that too. So what we are here today is, this panel is Art Directors Guild panel, getting into the entertainment industry. Why we decided to put this panel together is, who we have here are members of our Young Artists Committee. These are members who are 35 and under, or new members in the local. And I thought, when asked to put a panel like this together, I remember sitting through a ton of panels in my college days as a student, and it was usually people who were close to retirement age and older, sort of talking about, the good old days of getting into this business and things that really didn't relate to me. So when I was asked to sort of put something together, I thought maybe getting something closer to an age and experience of what you would be experiencing if you were interested in getting into the entertainment industry. So let me introduce our panelists today. Right here first, we have Sarah M. Gonzalez. Sarah is a graphic designer in the STG craft. Her background is a bachelor's degree in advertising from Michigan State University. Notable projects she's worked on as a graphic designer for Drunk History, Rocket Jump, The Show, Escape Night, Black Lady Sketch Show, and FX's Dave. Sarah has been working in the entertainment industry for 9 years, joining the Art Directors Guild in 2016. Originally from Michigan, Sarah started her college path as an engineering major, then merged into creative advertising, which eventually led her to discover her love of graphic design. In her 9 years, Sarah's worked in every role in the art department before landing on her official title of graphic designer. Sarah lives in the North Hollywood Arts District and spends her spare time binging on shows her friends worked on, trying to figure out how she could work on the next Star Trek. Anything. She's also on the council of the STG, Scenic Title and Graphic Artists in the Art Directors Guild, or as she likes to call it, the Jedi Council. Next, we have Michael Allen Glover, art director, supervising art director. His background is he has a BA in film with a focus in scenic design from Emerson College. Projects he's worked on: Station 11 for HBO Max, The Alienist, Angel of Darkness, Dirty John, Ghosted, The Long Road Home. Since deciding that being an astronaut was not the right career path, he decided that building other worlds on screen was the right path for him. Having been fortunate enough to work his way up in the art department from being an intern and PA on My Name is Earl to joining the union as an assistant art director, from being sent to Europe and becoming a supervising art director on Angel of Darkness. Michael Allen Glover. Next, we have Mr. Alexander Stamp. Alexander was introduced at an early age to the art of cinema, experiencing the working world of a set as a child actor and progressing his way to behind the camera as an up-and-coming art director, writer, and film director. His experiences behind the camera have grown at a rapid rate, from a start in student films to working as an art director on numerous music videos, network series, and features. Alex now spends most of his time art directing for TV and film. His career is vastly expanding as he recently became a member of the IATSC Local 800 Art Directors Guild. His current goals are to continue growing his film and television career and do exactly what we all started out to do, is to make great art. And not present, she's on her way, fighting some traffic, is Miss Sarah Escamilla. She's a graphic artist. Her background is from San Antonio, Texas. And notable projects include the title designer for Disney's The Jungle Book, graphic designer for It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, Stumptown, and Mythic Quest. After graduating from Texas State with a degree in graphic design, Sarah moved to California to attend Pasadena's Art Center College of Design and earned her degree in illustration. Starting commercials, Sarah joined the union in 2012 and has since enjoyed a career working on cool shows and films. Sarah lives close to downtown LA and spends her time doing yoga, going on hikes, and spending time with her corgi, Rambo, and Kiwi the cat. Sarah. Oh, she's not there. Okay. So, I think panelists, now I've introduced you, I'm going to give you this opportunity to sort of expound a little bit about what it is you actually do. So we'll start with Sarah being a graphic artist, what that kind of means in terms of the industry and the art director skills.
Graphic design, and specifically for film and TV, is you're making anything that you see like on set. So it's not necessarily something that's on screen. So like, like something flashes on the screen, whatever. But it's like stuff that's physical. So like if we're doing a convention, I might have to do like this flyer, or I might have to find like the art for the walls. I might have to do a phone screen if it's scripted that somebody gets a text message. So it's like anything within, me specifically, I do anything that's within, like, that's gonna be seen on camera that people are gonna interact with on set. And yeah, I break down a script, so anything that's called out will be like, oh, this is an important poster that they talk about, and they point at it, and it's got a specific name, and stuff like that, I guess.
Alan?
As a supervising art director, I make spreadsheets. So I got really good at spreadsheets. No, I basically, as an art director, you're in, the number 2 in the department of helping the production designer make their vision, whatever that dream is, actually physically appear in front of them. So they can draw it up and make really cool pictures, and then your job is to figure out how to communicate with construction, budget it, and figure out how to actually make it physically there. So, and then as a supervising art director, it's basically that. You just have more people that work underneath you, and you, like I said, you make more and more spreadsheets. Lots of spreadsheets. Be very good at spreadsheets. I thought I was going to be an artist. I'm really good at numbers now.
Maybe color-coded spreadsheets?
They are color-coded. They're the most beautiful.
Also, as an art director, it follows along the same lines. It's basically the production designer has a vision, and it's our job to execute that vision, to make the dreams and kind of ideas that are in one's head come true. So as much as it is spreadsheets, there are a lot of things that go into that. I mean, as much as the textiles that are involved, a lot of those things that the production designer doesn't want to necessarily, sometimes they want to be bothered with. But little meticulous details are also important, such as textiles and what goes into making it, and the logistics, like does it need to be moved to kind of stay on the sound stage, or things like that, what the materials you want to use are, all that kind of stuff. But lots of spreadsheets. It's a lot of budgeting, because no matter what all those things that you're building and creating, they cost money. So you have to figure out how to do that, make the vision of the production designer come true within the amount of money the producer gives you, which a lot of times those things they never line up. So you have to get creative and make sure that you can figure out a way to make that dream come true within the allotted money that's given to you.
Yeah, I think where the creativity might come into play, as an art director myself, kind of came into it was you're having to implement this vision, instead of the production designer, but you have to speak the language. So you still have to know everything that the production designer is talking about in a visual way. And you're the interpreter, because they're coming up with a concept, and you have to take this concept and now disseminate it to umpteen different departments, all these different places, and keep it in budget, and give the production designer the freedom to sort of stay in this world of creation while you're sort of figuring out how that can happen. And sometimes you do have to say no, but let's look at it a different way. But if you have that visual language and similar sort of communication skill, you can do that in a way that it doesn't seem combative, or you are achieving that vision at the end of the day. So all great answers. Thank you very much. So next topic of conversation. Now we sort of overview what it is that you do and your job. Maybe I know as a supervising art director and a graphic artist, maybe break down like a typical day in the department for you. or in case, like say you get a new script, right? What that entails for you in each of your respective roles in the art department.
Sure. So when you look at a script for the first time, the things that I look at are, before I read it fully and actually read every line and figure out what the dialogue is, I look at the scene headings that tell me exactly how many sets I'm gonna have to do and what those are. And then I read it so that I know, like, when I see, oh, the library is, I've seen that that's popped up multiple times, so that I know that like the library is gonna be a key part or key location or set that we're gonna have to build. So I kind of first glance at everything just to give a once over to get an idea, and then I'll read the full script. And as an art director, I'm thinking of the graphics that are gonna have to be made, not necessarily sometimes I'll be thinking of the props depending on the show, but it's mostly graphics that are needed for signage or things like if we're doing a convention like this, you'll be thinking of what sets are gonna be builds versus locations, and then thinking about how much money, if it's a TV show, you typically have an idea of what an episodic block of money you have. So you know you're trying to figure out already, okay, well the library's big, so I'm gonna need to put majority of the money into the library, maybe the coffee shop is one scene, we can, spend less money in there. But that doesn't always go with the production designers want. So that's, again, goes back to the combativeness of figuring out how to make their dreams a reality for the proper budget. But yeah, it's basically breaking down that. And then working with the other people in the department. So I would go to Sarah and say, hey, this is where you're seeing the same things I'm seeing, how are we gonna break that down, basically?
I think to touch back also on what Andrew was saying, there's a vast amount of departments within our department that we oversee. Graphic design falls directly under the art department, but within the art department, there's also a set dressing department, and there is greens, and there is special effects, all somewhat under the management of us, depending on the project. There's a lot of things that we oversee. Painting is a whole nother, and there's also vast amounts of unions within them, different unions, different jobs falling under different things. So there's a lot of coordination and making sure those things are kind of all running smoothly. And yeah, making decisions like, hopefully we can shoot that coffee shop in a real coffee shop where we don't have to dress it with a bunch of, overpriced rentals. So.
Let's see. My days are typically crazy. I'm gonna go off a little and let's say, so scripts go through many revisions. So sometimes I get it when it's new, and if I come in on a show or a movie really early, they'll be like, here's the script, you find where all the graphics are that you think we need. Or sometimes like he said, if he'll go through it and he'll be like, okay, here's all the things that I have flagged that are your top priorities or whatnot. But let's say I've already gotten the script, I've gotten all I've got my own spreadsheet, and then I get a new version. So now I have to go through that one and see if there's any changes or additions or whatever. And so I'm like, okay, well today I need to get through these things. I need to design like a good example of a crazy day is from Drunk History, because every day is a new everything. So Monday can be 1970s New York. Tuesday is gonna be 1940s Germany. Wednesday is gonna be 1900s, I don't know, Texas? Whatever. Anyway, every day is different. So I have my list. I'm like, okay, today I need to get through this 1970s newspaper, and I need to get through photoshopping, this person's face onto this picture. And let's say I have 15 things I need to do that day. Okay, so let's say I started 8. Then it's 10 a.m. and I have started one thing, but I got a new script, so now I need to stop and then to read it and see what changed. And then props comes in and it's oh, all of a sudden we need this thing that's for tomorrow. It's this huge sign for this shop that's gonna be here's what size it is. And okay, so stop everything and do that. Okay, cool. And then I start doing that, and then somebody else can come in and they're like, wait, so that thing that you made last week, we need you to change it? And I'm like, but I already sent it to print. And then they're like, tell them it's stopped. Colin, I did not print that thing, I need to change it. And then it's lunchtime. But it's things like that. It's always crazy, it's never boring, rarely boring. But I'm always making like millions of different things, like, and it's, being a graphic designer is so crazy. If you're on a bigger show, there might be multiple, which is very exciting and not very common for things that I work on. But you're helping a lot of other departments. So you're helping the art directors, and you're helping the set decorator, and you're helping the prop master. So it's a lot of juggling, and it's a lot of like getting people to give you the information that you need to complete your tasks, and like lots of spreadsheets.
And everyone knows that department and props department are always gonna throw things at you.
Oh, and they all don't talk to each other.
Right.
Oh, and costumes.
So you'll need to
Wardrobe.
create something instantaneously that the prop department's demanding, or the shot won't get shot tomorrow morning, and then the second department's already done it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not boring.
No, it is never, there's never a dull moment. I think one kind of gleaning from your answers here is one of the key things to always keep in mind in working in an art department, or in the entertainment industry in general, not necessarily the art department, I think just in entertainment, is be fluid. Things change constantly. A good sort of my anecdote about, or my little phrase about this is like, I went to theater school, and I was trained in theatrical design. It's all the same design really, but I was working off of Shakespeare and Tennessee Williams and scripts that have existed for hundreds of years, and so my training was basically surrounding something that was basically written in stone. And then I got into the television industry, and I'm getting new words every day that changes drastically. Like Tennessee Williams ain't writing new words. Like that's sort of what. So like, it was, so one of the things that worked very quickly is you have to be fluid. You have to be willing to kind of roll with it and understand that like, things are going to change. It's not going to be the same from day to day, and so I think that's sort of the common theme.
Communication is key.
Yes.
Having a good coordinator really is a huge thing for the art department, to be able to interdepartmentally keep things aligned, and be able to really answer a lot of questions that the art director has, especially if he doesn't have an assistant.
Well, we have Sarah is here.
Hi.
We've just sort of taken a couple questions about a typical day for you as a graphic artist, and also sort of what you do. Sarah sort of fills us in on graphic artists and sort of what her typical day is. But how about if you don't put you on the spot, you just run in. But what would your typical day look like in an art department?
Well, I just came from a typical day.
See, this is being fluid. So.
I'm working on Mythic Quest, which is like a new Apple streaming show about, it's a comedy about the video game industry. And so we're in prep right now. We're 1 week out. We're going to start shooting next week. So this week is huge for us. And it's season 2, even though it just started airing for season 1 maybe a few weeks ago. So this whole week was about getting our permanent sets like fully dressed and decorated with all the graphics, and then bringing everything for our episodic sets. Like those are going to start coming into play like very quickly. And once the whole machine of the show starts to get rolling, it's as a graphic artist, you're just like in it, and you have to like keep up with those needs, because I don't even know how much you covered already. But I'm a graphic artist too, so you have to basically you cover all the graphic needs of the entire show. So it's everything that the production needs, everything that props, that set deck, that the actual art department needs in and of itself. So it's like a huge array of things to get a handle on and oversee. And you're basically a department of one.
That's what it's like. Sometimes you get to, but very rare.
Yeah, very rare, unfortunately. But we're always working with amazing PAs. I feel like the PAs always have amazing talent, and I feel like the talent's always split between like someone who's really good in graphic design or someone who's really good in like drawing and set design, and those people always end up helping, and I feel like that always leads in like later on, those people always end up trickling into the art department as like as a designer, a set designer, or a graphic designer.
I think that's important to mention also, because that's everyone starts
Yeah.
somewhere.
Well, that was my next segue. Thank you for the wonderful segue, Sarah. Just like read my mind. I was gonna say, go down the table here and sort of talk briefly. I mean, we don't have anything after this, but I do want to leave some time if you have questions at the end. But sort of your journey to get where you are today. I mean, it's sort of in your bios, but I didn't really explain. Because I'm sure that's a big question here is like, well, then how do I get into Local 800? How do I get into this, what you do? And so maybe just a little sort of brief pathway history of how you got where you are.
Okay, so I'm from San Antonio, Texas, went to school there, got like my undergraduate graphic design degree from Texas State. And then I really wanted to have the art school experience because some of my teachers had, and I thought it was really cool, and I was always considered myself an artist, and so I really wanted to go to art school. Went out here in Pasadena to Arts and College of Design and got a degree in illustration. And when I was there, I was taking like all the fun classes, like not specifically job focused in mind. Like I was like, I'm just going to do like sculpture classes and all the fine art classes, and I met a great group of friends, and I have like real great connections there. And then I graduated in 2008, which is the Great Recession. It was like, there was no jobs. I immediately went from this crazy expensive school to like working as a barista. So it was like a real like high-low story, and it was really sad for me. But when I was working as a barista, one of my friends who I met in my fine art class was working in production, and she was doing commercials and not doing anything creative, but she was like, hey, we need someone to do these big paper mache masks. And I was like, well, if I can do it. And so I didn't have like I didn't have a great big paper mache background, but I could do it because I had taken fine art classes and I'm a creative person. I think we're all like consider ourselves artists, I'm sure. And so I was like, I can do this. I did that. They loved it. And then I worked on another commercial, and they found out that I had this graphic design skill set. And that was like the last day I was a PA. And then after that, I was just doing commercials. And I was like, there's no way I can just make a living doing commercials. It's insane. It's not a normal 9-to-5 job. Like my family had only ever worked like 9-to-5 jobs, and it was just insane to think that you could cobble together a living doing this weird work, not work, like and make a career out of that. But I did, and then all of a sudden I tried my hand at shows, and I was okay at that, and now it's all I do, and it's really cool to be able to work on, like I worked on The Jungle Book, doing Mythic Quest now, done It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and so it's cool to like go from something like that was basically a scenic, which is like making props and like hand things, to doing graphic design, and it's like, I'm sure everybody else has like a different story, but that was mine.
Thank you.
I moved here and I didn't really know anybody, and I had like, somebody told me, or like had seen on Facebook that a friend, not even a friend, it was like a girl who was in a grade below me, was working on some MTV show in Hollywood. And I was like, what do I have to lose? And so I sent her a message and I was like, hey, I'm just moved here, here are my skills, do you know? And also she was a production assistant. Like she had there's no way she could ever give me a job. Like if I were to contact her now, probably I would be like, that's a dead end. But I was like, whatever, that's all I know. So I tried. And she was like, actually, our production is like, I have no hiring capabilities whatsoever. But she was like, but our production designer is swapped, and I can give her your resume if you want. And I was like, okay. And so she gave it to her, and she called me and was like, you're very overqualified because you have had like actual jobs. And like I worked as a freelance graphic designer before I moved out here. I moved out here a year after I graduated from college. And so I just helped the production designer, and I got super lucky. She hired me just to like help her, like I was just a PA, like doing runs, and I had to do like some research things, and I was so blessed because she helped me, she taught me how to do things. She's like, this is how you, like the menial things that, like everybody kind of does differently, but no one like really takes the time to teach you, but she did. And she was like, this is how you tape up receipts. This is how you submit it to accounting. Like all the basic stuff that made me like a stellar PA. Like, the first thing I had to do, I remember that I had to research, they were like, okay, we need to find a orangutan x-ray, and we need it to like be real, go forth. And I was like, all right, what do I do? And I'm Googling and I'm calling, and I was like, okay, gotta try. It's like weird requests like that when you're a PA. And I remember like, it took me like 2 or 3 days, and I was like, I'm gonna figure this out. And I ended up calling, I was like, okay, who would have something like this? And I was like, maybe like a veterinary clinic for exotic animals, because people have weird pets in LA, so I called them and I was like, hey, just want to know if you have any like, you know, x-rays for orangutans, because I need one, whatever. And they were like, actually, which this is my favorite fun fact that I've ever learned probably, they're like, actually, orangutans are covered under HIPAA laws, so we can't release any of their medical information. And I was like, okay, new plan. So I was like, okay, where else can I get it? So I called this place that rents exotic animals for movies. And I was like, hey, do you guys have orangutans? Maybe they got an x-ray recently and you can like give it to me? And they were like, oh, sorry, no, but if you want, you can rent one and take it with the handler to get an x-ray. And I was like, I don't think that's in our budget. Thanks. All right, what's next? Yes, I was like, probably not. Yeah, and so I was like, okay, good plan. What am I, okay. So I called, I think I ended up calling the San Diego Zoo. And I was like, hey, I need this. It's super weird. Can you help me? And then a couple days later, they were like, yeah, here's a high-res one. And it worked perfectly.
Yeah, just.
And it was crazy, but I was like, it's very like.
They broke HIPAA laws.
But it was like it was for
orangutan.
research, so it was like
Yeah.
fine. But anyways, like, are they gonna sue? I don't know. But anyways, it's very, being an RPA, being in the art department, everything it's creative problem solving. It's like, one way didn't work. Okay, we don't have enough money to build that set that way. What material can we use that's within the budget?
Yeah.
Like, how can we do it a different way? Like, we need to get from point A to point B. How can we do it like this way and like still get there and it looks pretty and like, you know, actors won't fall on it, stuff like that. Anyways, so that was me being a PA. And then I worked my way. I just would be friendly with everybody on set. And then I was like, ooh, I want to do props. And then I did prop assisting, and then I did props, and I was like, I don't want to do props, never again. And I was like, ooh, I want to be an art director. And then I did it, and I was like, oh,
That's fair.
and then I always loved graphic design. Like, I always did it for fun. And I didn't want to be in the advertising world, and like, I was like, it's like 9 to 5, I can't do that. But then I was like, okay, somebody has to make all of the things that you see in a movie where it's like, there's a chip bag and like a cereal box and like, you know, the sign for that. I started noticing that like everything, you can't just use like real things, you have to use fake things. So it has to be custom, it has to be made up, it has to like, you know, fit over this sign. And I was like, well, somebody has to make that stuff. And so I was like, I guess I'll try and make that stuff. And so I started just, everybody that I worked with, I would tell them, hey, I know I'm an RPA, but I can do graphic design if you ever need anybody, or like, you know, next time you hire me, maybe you could hire me just to do graphics. And so that worked, and I started getting more and more work that way. I did a lot of independent stuff, and like, I did a lot of YouTube shows when YouTube was making shows. Now they're like not as much, I guess, I don't know. And yeah, it was really fun, and I made a lot of weird stuff. And then I just started getting more jobs, and I started working more consistently. And it was really difficult for me to get into the union because I didn't understand how. So it took me about 9 years, but I'm very thankful that it did take me that long, because once I did get in, I had this amazing network of people that I know will just continue to hire me. So I work with like 4 or 5 and growing production designers, and so like I go from job to job, and you know, if you get in really quickly, which is something that happens, and you could get very lucky and that could happen, you might not have that network, so you might pay all your dues, and then you're like, well, I know I'm a production designer, and now what do I do? So I'm very, you know, I'm glad for the way that happened, it worked out for me,
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say that, like, very similarly, Andy knows, Andy and I PA'd together on a show once, it was very exciting. I was a PA, I basically, the college I went to, Emerson in Boston, has their final semester you can do in LA, but you have to have an internship, and everyone's internship is like, oh, I read script coverage at this place that doing something I could care less about, and then reading a book that no one will ever turn into a movie. Great, good work. And I was like, I have no interest in that. That will do me no good. And luckily there was a girl, similar, that was a PA, had no ability to get me a job, but said, hey, there's an internship for Florida State students at My Name is Earl. And I said, well, I'm not Florida State, but maybe they'll let me apply, and they did, and I got it. And again, same thing, it's like I worked on that, and then those people hired me on something, recommended me on something, and I was a PA for like 8 years, and same thing, couldn't figure out how do I get into the union, but by working on all those shows, I created a huge network of people that I had contacts with that worked on big union projects. So when I finally was able to get into the union through the basically the first year of the PA, we had a have a PA training program through the Art Directors Guild. And the first year they had that, I submitted, and they basically looked at it and said, I'm sorry that you haven't found a way to get in yet. You have done this program several times over, and there's no reason for you to do it again. So we're gonna let you in if someone will hire you as an assistant art director. So I was able to find that job and work, and because I had such a large group of people that could hire me, I was able to get work pretty quickly and then work very consistently and work my way up from assistant art directing and, up to now. So I've been, basically like Sarah was saying, is it's a big thing of problem solving and figuring stuff out and then showing people that, yeah, I know I'm also going to get you coffee, but I'm also really good at some other things. Like I can do graphic design and I can draw a set if you need it. I know I'm not supposed to, but I'd be happy to do it if I'm not taking work away from the set designer. Maybe this wants to take 15 minutes and let me draw it instead of him, just to show them that I can. And I did that. Yeah, I got really good at SketchUp, by the way. That's the also helped me very much. And I moved my way up that way.
Yeah, I always wonder with SketchUp how much there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to know about SketchUp, and it does help a lot. Although we do have our friends set designers who they generally take over most of the roles in SketchUp and stuff like that, and do a lot of the design. We get to have a little bit of fun here and there to get them going,
But mostly spreadsheets.
mostly spreadsheets. I think to touch on what you were saying a little bit, I think a lot of that, and what everyone's been saying kind of, is that a lot of it is it's a solution-orientated department and industry overall. So I think maybe instantaneously you don't have a solution to a problem, but to take time, step away and really think about it and try to find out with some ideas like Sarah did with calling around and getting all the orangutan things. I had to do that similar where trying to find, I did a movie in Austin, Texas about the kind of a sad story about just how the inaccessibility to rape kits. And I had to find a rape kit, which as you imagine, it's very hard for anyone to find it, let alone me, but you call around and you have to find those things because they are really non-existent and inaccessible, just like orangutan x-rays. So there's a lot of different things you have to overcome, but always having a solution is a good thing. From where I kind of started, I started in film school. I went to film school to become a director, and now I've kind of moved more in the direction of art direction, and that's what I do more so now. But within that, I met a production designer, and we hit it off really well, and she kind of took me under her wing. And I worked with her for many years doing project after project after project with her until her set decorator decided she wanted to design. And then she got into a show, and then I jumped on a union show, and there was like some sort of contract where I was allowed in. And that's how I joined, but I also at some point had done every single position in the art department, from PAing to assistant art directing, to set decorating, to set dressing, to construction. I mean, I built so many sets myself by hands. Because before you get to this glamorous world of, these shows that we're talking about that we're proud of, and we're proud of them because everyone knows what they are. But some of the best work I ever had, some of the funner times were on the smaller gigs where you're doing it all together, and it's a team building effort of designing it together, and then going in and diving in and building it together. And those are the places the stepping stones to get to where you are, because to be in a position of, the head of departments like the art directors are, and supervising art directors below the production designer, the best way to be able to command a ship is to know what everyone's job entails, so that you can have an understanding and really know how long it actually takes to do something, or what it takes for that person to do their job. So I think that's an important step to being the best at being the boss, I guess.
All great, thank you for sharing. I think one of the themes that I've kind of noticed is that not once did you say, when you're first getting your start, no. By that I mean, I can relate to something similar. Actually, Alan and I were just talking about it in the green room back there. Yeah, we did come up together as PAs. And in fact, my kind of break into, scripted, sort of bigger shows was I interviewed as a PA for a show. Alan got the job. Good for you. But it worked out pretty well, because what happened was I interviewed, and the art director on that show, he called me and he said, we're going to go in a different direction. We're going to go with this young lady. Turned out to be Alan.
Wow.
And
really?
yeah, I don't know what happened between that phone call and now. But he said, but hang on, stay by your phone. And I think in the next hour or so, I got another call from another show. And they said, we need a PA. And I said, cool. I work at the Warner Brothers lot. When can you start? And I said, now. And they're like, can you be here today? And I said, yeah. And showed up, and 7 years later in that art department, I was stuck with him. And gave me all these opportunities. And before that, I was doing the same thing. I was building, background in construction, background in CNC work, background in on-location live event art direction, red carpets. And even as a non-union member, I have to throw in a shameless plug. I was able to work on the VMAs that won the Emmys Award for art direction that year. So, there are opportunities out there, but your opportunities are greater, and there are more protections when you are able to join. But I think your first steps, especially right after you graduate, tend to be, just don't say no, to any opportunity. And even if you don't really know what you're doing, I've heard, I've been in those situations yeah, we need somebody who can sew curtains. I'm like, well, I can sew. I've never sewn a curtain, but I can sew. And so I show up and I just sew curtains. And they're like, great. And then, it's just that kind of, just having that sort of openness. So thank you for, again, sharing, this experience. Since we are going to, I want to open up to some questions. So does anybody have any questions for our panelists? Don't be shy. Anything. Yes, right here.
One more intrusive one. You mentioned that you were on 7 experience. What exactly? Like a certain show?
Oh, yeah.
So it's like old school, like where you're like,
Oh, yeah. I feel like I was good enough for my family because they're like, what do you do?
Yeah.
So for that show, it ends up being a lot of like props, and they always do these like flow charts and like handmade stuff. And I think it ends up being super prop heavy and like hand done props, where it's like Charlie Day's character is always like this crazy children. Yes, so basically that's what I do. I went to $100,000 art school to do children's drawings.
I say I got my undergrad degree from Carnegie Mellon University for figure painting.
Yes,
You know.
that's what happens. But it takes like those things are on the screen for like a flash, and they need to read really quickly and read well. And you could get a child to do it, but it wouldn't maybe. I mean, hopefully I do it better than that. But it ends up being a lot of like for comedies. It's always a lot of like funny, punchy graphics that are like in line with what the characters are doing, especially for that show.
Any other questions? Yeah, right here.
So my question would be for Alexander.
Yeah.
So, being a gamer myself, I'm very much interested in the side of art, and I do see here that you were the artist on it.
Yeah, I did. I worked on the posters for that was for the films. I worked on the posters throughout my time in college and building my art department career. I also worked for an ad agency called Bond, and they do along with a handful of others, they do a lot of the key art, so all the movie posters and stuff like that. So producing and kind of getting those things. It's a lot of just the photo shoots, putting the props together, the photo shoots. There's no like separation in departments. You kind of do everything. It's props, costumes, stuff like that. It's a lot of archiving, research, and stuff like that, because all of the studios have all of the main props and all the main things archived. And then they hire someone like Bond to do the advertisement, but then they don't really have any good communication, because the production, even though it's I don't even know who did Assassin's Creed, I think Warner Brothers, right? The production company is so separate from the actual studio, and then it's all like, it's just a big jungle, so it's a lot of trying to acquire those props. I'm actually currently working on the HBO Max launch party, and we are doing that as well. We're doing like a lot of archiving, going through because they're offering now like 105 different new series, a whole bunch of stuff. So it's a lot of that is doing like pulling together kind of all that stuff and then building the different worlds. So that's an interesting and fun one, because there's so many different IPs or intellectual properties that we get to kind of build different sets, small sets, little activations for each different thing. So that's cool.
I think, you're probably talking about like how to get into, what the crossover might be, correct me if I'm wrong, like with gaming and the film industry and sort of what we do. I mean, if you look around the room here at, a lot of the work on the walls, a lot of work that's being displayed, we do have illustrators and concept illustrators, and we're also organizing previs artists.
So cool. It's my favorite part. I'm
And
so
so,
envious of those people. They're so
a lot of that work is crossover into gaming and the gaming industry. We have quite a few members who sort of bridge those worlds a little bit. So I think it kind of speaks to what the sort of theme of this panel, and it's a little bit what it developed into, was not limiting yourself. I mean, if you want to get into gaming, by all means, pursue it, but know that there's a whole world of entertainment options out there, and it doesn't necessarily limit. If gaming is your thing, but then how many movies, TV shows are based on comic books, games, all of this stuff. It requires sort of a similar mindset, similar skill, similar sort of artistic idea. So again, opportunity. Any other questions? Yes, right there.
So I'm interested in set dressing, and I was wondering if you have any steps for set dressing.
Sure.
Alex, because you have some.
I just feel like I did that for so long.
Yeah, I was gonna say you have a big background.
Yeah, I mean, get out there and start PAing and stuff like that. I feel like right now is a good time, especially to get out there, make connections, PA, and then get set dressing gigs, because the truth is, and especially working with 44 hand in hand so much over the past year, and all these streaming services, it's a little slower than it was last year right now, but it's picking up again. It's the busiest time of the year, and a lot of these unions are going into permits, which means you may be a non-union set dresser or set decorator, but they're running out of people that are in the union to work. So they're hiring a lot of non-union people on union shows, which then you have to get 30 days to join 44, and once you have 30 days of work, you get to be in the union. I mean, you have to pay a little joining fee, but it's not outrageous. And then you get healthcare, and you get pension, and all the things that are really awesome. But it's definitely like, get out there and make connections. I would start, I mean, it starts with, it's so hard to say, because like I started doing just student films, and it's like Andrew said, don't say no to anything. Like if you have free time and it doesn't affect your ability to go to work or make money. Everyone has to make money, so like saying, working for free isn't a thing really, it shouldn't be at least.
Don't
But
ever do that.
Don't do it.
Your time is valuable, even when you're just getting into the job market. Get in the mindset that, volunteer is kind of a bad word, because you should be paid for the work that you do.
Yeah, you're a human being. But there's art department groups on Facebook. I suggest that too. There's a handful of them.
Yeah, and I would also say like another good route for set decorating is if you become a set deck coordinator, or if you're a set deck PA and you end up like helping the set deck coordinator a lot, you'll figure out where everything comes from whichever's, prop houses have what. So you'll be like, someone will say, it actually helped me once when I was an art director. Someone was like, oh, we need this Middle Eastern thing. And I was like, there's a place in the valley on San Fernando that sells only Middle Eastern crap. And they're like, oh, great, we'll go right there. So knowing where things are will make you invaluable to work your way up so that if you want to work the steps of it, then you can become a buyer. And a buyer needs to know where everything is so that they're not driving around all day looking. They say, oh, well, I need 6 of those. I know they have that at LCW or they have that, wherever. So I always think that a really good way is if you're tracking the budget, you see where everything is and you know where everything comes from. So it's a really good step as well to coordinate or PA in the set deck department. Yeah.
It's also a good thing to learn the titles and jobs of the art department. So like set deck is kind of its own thing where it's like the set decorator. So then you have that's the person that's like in charge of
That department, set decoration, it's its
yeah,
own
and
department.
then like there's the buyer that's who goes out and like is like here's 3
Shopping.
patches, choose for those. And then there's the set dressers are the people who are on the set, like we need you to move that couch and like load the
And
truck.
they take their orders from the lead man,
Yeah,
who is in charge of the swing gang. That's the set dressers. So in the hierarchy of set dressing, you have set decorator, buyer, lead man, swing gang, who are the dressers. They're the ones actually lifting the furniture off the truck and putting it on the set. And then your PAs and your kind of office and coordinator.
Yeah, and on set.
But that's one reason it's good to work on the show if you can get in as a PA because you learn.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing.
Listen to this man right now.
I worked a lot as on commercials and on music videos and on a lot of no budget stuff as well, where I was the prop master, the set decorator, the truck driver.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. But that doesn't teach you necessarily when you get in a professional full art department what everyone's job is. So I think if you can PA on a union television show or a union movie, you will learn more in that one experience of what everyone's job is, because people will show you exactly like, hey, I'm the lead man, this is what I do. And I think 2 bits of information that helped me drastically is never be afraid to ask someone a question and say like, hey, I don't know what that is. What is a lead man? And then they'll tell you. They're not offended. No one's gonna be mad that you asked a question.
Don't ask the gaffer if he has any gaff tape.
Yeah, don't ask that question.
Just stay away from the
Yeah.
gaffer.
And the other big one I think is never being afraid to admit that you don't know how to do something. So if someone says, hey, Alan, will you do this? And you're like, yeah. And then you struggle for 45 minutes trying to figure it out, and then have to come back and say, man, I tried, but you need to show me. I'd much rather you tell me at the beginning, hey, look, I don't know how to do this, but if you show me, we're good. And I'm like, that's great. I'll show you once and never have to show you again. You're gonna be good.
Yeah.
So those are the 2 biggest things that I always, when people ask, like, once I'm as a PA, what are the biggest things? Is like, never fear having to say you don't know how to do something, because we all had to learn somewhere. And they don't teach it in school for the most part. Art department is a very rare department that there's not like an art department degree. Everyone that goes to theater school learns how to, has to do everything, but everyone in film school doesn't. So art department is a very unique experience. So it's very much a on-the-job learning experience. So
And even then,
Yeah.
in film school,
Oh, yeah.
when you're making a student film, there's like 2 people, 1 person and 2
you shoot in a friend's apartment
Yeah.
because you have a friend's apartment.
Exactly, so the set decoration is whatever that friend
Yeah.
happens to have bought at IKEA.
And then you can move around and it looks slightly different than their apartment. But yeah, those are some.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he's right. I think getting a job as a PA on a professional set, and then also working getting experience, natural experience. But that is a good question. Like, how do you go about finding a PA position for a TV show?
Well, I think as you sort of noticed, here, the entire panel, knew somebody.
Yeah,
Guess what? Everybody in this room, now you know somebody up here on this panel.
absolutely.
That's why I picked these people. They're very nice people, I promise. Me, on the other hand, I'm a union thug, so, but please call me, I'm nice. It's all about, it's a cliche, but it's all about who you know in this business. And the other cliche that rings true is you're only as good as your last show. And I mean, I think that's also, it goes to what what Alan's saying is like, if you're there PAing, I'd much rather have my PA, if there's some downtime, and I don't know when that is, but if there is, I'd much rather have you come to me and say, hey, I'm not doing anything right now. Is there something I can do? And if I'm like, no, not really, we're good, then the next follow-up should be, well, can I go to set and see what they're doing down there?
Yeah.
So then you can meet everybody down there, because they're all gonna, those are all people that you get to know. You get to know everybody's job on set. That, again, makes you a better part of this industry. Like Alex said, the more jobs you know, the better you sort of can navigate when you have to talk to different departments. So it's just gaining all of this knowledge, but I think that first step is just building your network. You know us. You know Casey. You know the people who in the Art Directors Guild who are here this week for EagleCon. We can be a resource for you. And it may take me a couple of days, but I always answer my emails. And let you know like if there's something. And mind you, I'm not in the job. Because my role now as a union rep is I know about the jobs after they've happened. Like I'm representing members as they're working. I don't know about jobs that are kind of coming down the pipe. But that doesn't mean that I don't still have contacts like these folks and plenty of others I've worked with. You call me and sort of send me a resume, we have a conversation. I can say, hey, are you looking for somebody? Or, I met this great person at EagleCon. They had a great conversation. They seem willing. If you're looking for somebody, let me know. And I think the same could be said for everybody on this panel.
Absolutely. It's always good to have a good PA.
Yeah. I mean, it's, you can't do covered work, and by that I mean you can't do what we do while you're in the department, because then you'll see me with angry eyebrows at your department, but it means you can be there gleaning the knowledge, making those connections, and learning about everything that we do, and occasionally maybe, do some stuff that might not, there's some ways we can get around you doing some work, but, still being a part of that department. And yeah, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, it's gonna suck. You're gonna get coffee, you're gonna get lunches. Do it with a smile, it's okay. You're actually serving I know it sounds dumb, but you're serving a really great need for that department, because you've heard how busy we are. If you can come in with a positive attitude and hand me a cup of coffee and be like, here you go, thank you, and do you need anything else from me today? I'm going to hire you for the next 6 shows. So.
And I think with that being said, but while all those things are super great, and I think that's 100% a path to do, while you have the opportunity to not, I don't want to say opportunity while you're not in a union, because eventually that's the ultimate goal, because that is where your career, that's the next step in anybody's career, is getting into the union. That's where you all of a sudden are like, okay, now I'm doing the work I'm supposed to be. But while you're not in the union, take advantage of being able to learn and do as many different things as you possibly can, hands-on, because it'll give you a better understanding and a better respect for the other members in your art department.
And try everything, because the thing that you think you want to do right now is probably not what you're going to end up doing, 10 years, 5 years from now. I think it's very important to have many interests and just try all the things and rule stuff out.
Yeah, I agree.
My own, Alan heard me in the green room. I'm having these conversations with people about contract law and labor law and all of this stuff. 3 years ago, I was finger painting for a living. I didn't think I'd be there, but, I really love what I do now. And because I get to, part of being what I do is I get to make sure that when you get into the union, when you get that, you have somebody has your back, and that's me. Somebody has your best interest in mind. Make sure you get your benefits, make sure you get your health care, make sure that those are protected, and that you go home alive and safe at the end of the day. That's nobody should die making entertainment.
Yeah, always safety first.
Yeah.
Always.
But I never thought that the path would lead me there. And I think Sarah, you probably you shared your experience, a barista, and now you're. I mean, it's just this world is how you navigate it, and so. All right, any other? I think we're about done here, right? So thank you so much for your time and your attention. I really appreciate it. Are there any announcements? Or anything?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One is that we're going to have another Art Directors Guild panel tomorrow at noon. So tomorrow at noon there's going to be 2 panels, one for writers, including screenwriters, run by Brandon Easton, a screenwriter who we're giving an award to, and the other one is going to be run by